Gordon, Pope Francis is calling for peace and reconciliation in his visit to Israel as he traveled throughout the country from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. Another important subject on this trip, the brutal persecution of Christians in the Middle East. Our Chris Mitchell has the story now from Israel.
At Israel's Ben Gurion Airport, Israeli President Shimon Peres and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu greeted the pontiff. Pope Francis's visit is the third papal trip to Israel since the year 2000. He came with the goal of building bridges within the church, to other faiths, and bridging the political divide between Israelis and Palestinians. Francis issued a surprise invitation to both Peres and Palestinian Authority President Abbas to pray together at the Vatican. Both accepted and plan to come to Rome in early June. On the last day of his two-day visit, Francis prayed at the Western Wall and visited Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust memorial, where he met with Holocaust survivors and prayed, "Never again, Lord, never again." One major reason for the visit, signing a joint declaration with Bartholomew, the patriarch of the Greek Orthodox Church. It marks the 50th anniversary of the end of a rift between the Eastern and Western Christian churches that began nearly 1,000 years ago. They also express grave concern for Christian persecution in the Middle East, an issue addressed by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Your Holiness, in the heart of the Middle East, the turbulent and violent Middle East, where Christians are often persecuted, Israel is an island of tolerance.
We hope that he also basks in the holiness of Jerusalem and also recognizes the importance of a unified Jerusalem where there's access for all faiths to their places of worship.
During his trip, Francis called for a two-state solution. That means a divided Jerusalem, since Palestinians also want the city as their capital. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Ben Gurion Airport, Israel.
America is honoring the men and women who have sacrificed their lives for our country on this Memorial Day. At Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C., the 3rd U.S. Infantry is continuing the 40-year tradition known as Flags In, placing flags at the gravestone and burial sites of America's fallen heroes. The 3rd Infantry places more than 275,000 flags during the Memorial Day tradition. Belgium has launched a nationwide hunt for the lone gunman who walked into the Jewish Museum in Brussels Saturday and killed 4 people with a rifle. Dale Hurd brings us that story from Brussels.
Surveillance video shows the suspect take his Kalashnikov rifle from a bag and fatally shoot 4 people before packing it up again and quickly walking away. Dead is an Israeli tourist couple, a French woman and a Belgian man. One suspect detained by police was released and is now considered a witness.
Belgian and European officials acted horrified by the crime, but they shouldn't have been surprised. Anti-Semitism has been growing in Europe thanks to the influx of Muslim immigrants and the almost daily bashing of Israel by the media and politicians.
Outside Belgium's Supreme Court Sunday, hundreds gathered to condemn the attack.
And so I'm here because I found this event quite horrible, and I think we need to promote peace and democracy in our country.
Obviously, the pain is excruciating, as one could imagine, and I would like to think and I believe that it's not only the Jew, the rabbi, or the Jewish people that feel this way, not only the Belgian people, but the world over, that I'm sure feels this way, at least they should.
On the heels of the Brussels shooting, 2 Jewish men were attacked as they left a synagogue in Paris late Saturday. Growing numbers of Jews were already leaving Europe. These attacks mean even more Jews will decide they've had enough.
We have to remember that Europe was built on one promise. This promise is never again. And today you have people in the street who want to do one more time. If Europe will not be able to deal with this and to win this fight, I think that will be the beginning of the end for Europe.
Dale Hurd, CBN News, Brussels.
Churches in Houston are pushing back against a gay rights ordinance Mayor Anise Parker hopes will pass Wednesday. Parker is an open lesbian, and she says the measure would protect sexual minorities. But many faith leaders say it will severely limit religious freedom. George Thomas has that story.
It was just last fall that churches in San Antonio were caught off guard by the passage of an LGBT law dubbed anti-discrimination that penalizes businesses with a biblical view on sexuality.
It simply says, thou shalt not discriminate against these people. You have no way of knowing what is discrimination and what's not.
You're a small business owner operating within the city limits of San Antonio, or you're a business owner who wants to do business with the city. You need to tread carefully.
Similar LGBT laws exist in more than 180 cities, and now gay activists want it in Houston, the fourth largest city in the country.
But it is personal. It's not academic. It is my life that is being discussed.
The openly gay mayor, Parker, calls the measure civil rights protection and says Houston is the only major U.S. city without it. But many Houston churches say the law would leave them unprotected. They're worried about Christian businesses, especially wedding vendors, who could face fines for refusing to serve at gay weddings. And they say protection for transgendered people would leave women and children open to predators in public bathrooms.
When you pass a law that says it is legal for a biological male to go into a women's restroom, and you prohibit the business owner from stopping that biological male because he claims to be transgender, then you're opening the door wide open.
Hundreds of church leaders gathered recently to protest the proposed measure. If it passes, they say they'll gather signatures for a referendum to repeal it this fall. George Thomas, CBN News.
Authorities in California are learning more about the 22-year-old man who went on a brutal rampage Friday, killing 7 and wounding 13. But the case also shows once again how difficult it is for police to decide if someone could have serious mental health problems and be a danger to the community. Heather Sells has the story.
Elliot Rodger left behind a great deal of information about why he went on his shooting rampage Friday, but it's still hard for this community to understand.
I don't really have words to say like how kind of shocking it is just to know what happened.
Authorities are now reviewing his writings in which he detailed his killing plan, as well as this chilling YouTube video.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution, the day in which I will have my revenge against humanity.
Rodger describes years of loneliness and rejection by women and other friends. Some say they tried to help him.
He was really upset about why is the world so unfair to him.
I mean, I can only do so much. Like, I tried reaching out to him every chance I got, but he was like so closed off. There's nothing I could do.
Authorities say Rodger's rampage started in his apartment where he stabbed 3 men. He then drove around on and near the UC Santa Barbara campus and fired shots at young women at this sorority house and at people at this deli mart. Sierra Swart says she was 10 feet from his car when he fired at her multiple times.
He looked directly at me, and somehow, even though I hadn't even ran yet, he didn't hit me.
In the end, Rodger shot and killed himself inside the black BMW he used to carry out the violence. Last month, his parents contacted police after being alarmed by videos about suicide and killing. But after talking with Rodger, police determined there was no threat. Health experts say the case highlights the challenges that police face in assessing mental health, especially for those with no history of violent breakdowns or serious crimes. UC Santa Barbara students held a vigil on Saturday, and the community is planning an interfaith vigil for Tuesday. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Christians in China are being thrown in jail for gathering to worship or even possessing religious literature, and the crosses have been pulled off more than 60 churches. Bob Fu, the head of China Aid, told a congressional subcommittee it's part of a crackdown on religion. CBN has helped thousands in Thailand through humanitarian work over the last 15 years. More than 72,000 people have received free medical care. One of them is 17-year-old Sorasak. A shooting accident left him a paraplegic and bedridden. When CBN learned about his story, a team came to the rescue by providing 2 years of rehabilitation. After his physical condition improved, he was equipped with a wheelchair. He then accepted Jesus because of the love and support he received from CBN. You can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.